Today we are doing part 2 of Swami Vivekananda, and I've included a lot of student journals so you can get an understanding how your classmates are thinking. And then the class will wrap up with a 15-minute long version of the first Star Wars films. Star Wars, by nature of its making, it actually is a Advaita Vedanta tale. And this is a quote we went over the other day. It's worth reading it again. It is our own mental attitude which makes the world for us. Our thoughts make things beautiful. Our thoughts make things ugly. The whole world is in our own minds. Learn to see things in the proper light. It puts the responsibility on us for the happiness of our lives. We talked a few weeks ago about Emerson and transcendentalism. One of his quotes, "Every man is a divinity in disguise, a god playing the fool." Now, what does that mean? Well, Advaita Vedanta talks about the thing that connects us all. Do you remember the oversoul? Something that we all have in common? The God within us, if you will. They call it the Atman, that within us, if you look at that picture, it has a tree growing out of the head, that we are the creator of our own existence, that we're not in any way separate from everybody else. When you said that we were all, this is a student quote, journal, when you said that we were always perfect or born perfect or whatever it was, that hit me. I've always kind of judged myself negatively because of some family stuff and stuff that happened, but now I see that negativity isn't who I am. It's really just the reflection of people who were negative in my life. And it does limit you. You begin to limit you. I guess your mind and thoughts, it's kind of freeing to realize that I have more value than I thought. We are not inferior or superior to others, but instead we're kind of connected on a deeper level. That's non-duality. A kid wrote this, "I don't like the idea of look at those people," that was the IHOP Walmart example, "to make yourself feel better. Everyone is a Walmart person and everyone is going to go through stuff. Just because you aren't seeing a person at their prime that moment normally means they like themselves enough to not give a bleep about impressing others." We also talked about the concept of aloha the other class. Jump to the third sentence. I like the third sentence over here. Aloha is the essence of relationships in which each person is important to every other person for their collective existence. So whether we're talking about aloha or namaste or ubuntu, three different societies with a similar viewpoint that we are connected, unfortunately, we don't think that way, and part of Swami Vivekananda was trying to get people to realize there was a different way to look at things. Think of almost every positive experience you ever have had. What do they all have in common? Usually, in my experience, the greatest joys in life, almost every positive experience comes with interacting with others. Maybe with people, maybe with your pet, or a success. Somebody will say, well, I'm happy when I succeed, and I did that by myself. A lot of our personal success has to do with either proving something to others who told us we couldn't do something, or perhaps making people proud. Ultimately, the greatest joys in life are found with interacting with others. If you've ever been in a crowd where people are basically at a music concert and you're all singing the favorite song and you got 20,000 people in unison, there's something goosebump magical about that. In a way, it's non-duality. It's the connectedness that we always are looking for. It's there for us in that moment. It's there every moment, but we usually don't see it because we're normally looking at everybody else as a competitor in comparison. I like this quote, "Music is to the soul what words are to the mind." Like words are trying to get you to get certain ideas, but music can go right past the mind, right to the soul. It can move you emotionally. And there's something about it. I don't know why I put this slide in there, but I just wanted to introduce this concept. You must lose something to gain something. We're going to do Zen in a couple of weeks, but most of you want peace of mind or you want to be happy. You have this desire. Really the way to do it has nothing to do with the external world and what you might find out there, but it has to do with how you adjust your own perception. Another student journal. "Deleting my social media will helpfully eventually help me get out of the perception I made in my own head of what my life is and who I should be." This kid went off for a bit about why they were going to get rid of it. "As if they were leaves in the fall, I can see the F's that I used to give fly away, while a more happier, true version of me that doesn't care about validation approaches." I got goosebumps when I read this because this is the ultimate goal. Not to make you not give an F, but to realize that you don't need others for validation. Now, here's where the egoic mind, if you still have it, yes, but I need to impress everybody all of the time. Well, do you? Yes, I do. The first impressions, how am I going to get hired? How am I going to get married? Well, hold up. There are some people we need to impress. You need to impress in an interview. You need to impress the person you like. But the idea of impressing everybody, that's what leaves us in terror. That's what leaves us in fear. Because we don't know what the other person even thinks. But yet we think we do. They're usually judging us. If you walk into a room and you think people are judging you, sorry to tell you, but you're really just judging yourself. And you're putting your thoughts in their minds. That validation that most people need is the slavery to our thoughts and to the opinions of others. Vivekananda's view of education, his view of education along with Einstein and Rousseau is very important to me personally. He said, the present system of education is all wrong. The mind is crammed with facts before it knows how to think. Control of the mind should be taught first. The unfortunate fact is nobody gives you the owner's manual to how to run this mind, to how to run this body. If you've got really progressive parents who are available to you, maybe they teach you the lessons. But generally speaking, we enter school without knowing how to basically have an operating system of our computer, and school's about filling the hard drive. Advaita philosophy says, if we begin to see how our mind operates, that's how we get mind control. We can then transcend it. Now, the word self-conscious, if you're self-conscious, that means you think everybody's judging you. That's not good. But in their version of self-conscious, you become aware of yourself. Think of the quote from Socrates, the unexamined life is not worth living. If you become conscious of your thought patterns, if you become conscious of why you have emotions, that's the first step in changing those very phenomena. Why are most in the West so unaware of non-duality? Why do people think themselves to be so inferior? It's the mind. We are basically taught a certain way, and Eastern philosophy teaches it a different way. The tragedy is Eastern philosophy isn't taught in high school, and it's barely taught in colleges. Swami Vivekananda, the mind, uncontrolled and unguided, will drag us down, down, down forever. It will rend us, it will kill us, and the mind controlled and guided will save us, free us, simply in how we perceive the external world, simply how we perceive ourself in that external world. Another kid wrote this, and they definitely had a breakthrough. This stuff we've been learning recently has been hitting different. I really do see myself trying to use it in my life, both on purpose and just catching myself in general. I really thought at first, oh, I know this stuff. This is common sense. This is the ego, by the way. But the truth is, I didn't know it. I was only scratching the surface, and there's so much more to it, and so much more benefits when you actually apply this to your life and try to actually put forth an effort to use this stuff. It's the best feeling when you can go from catching yourself in the negative way of thinking that society has conditioned you with, and then reverting it to a more positive that you've been learning about using that positive way of thinking. Remember, Swami Vivekananda put all the power on you. Stop being a victim. Change the way you think. And like I said, just keep catching yourself. You're not going to make it go away tomorrow. You've been doing this for 17, 18 years. Just catch yourself creating your own negativity. Just catching yourself, why am I emotional? Why am I getting angry that girl's prettier than me? Those things torture us. Those things are our mind. We can control it better. Here's Ram Dass. The ego has convinced us that we need it. Not only that we need it, but that we are it. I am my body. I am my personality. I am my neurosis. I am angry. I am depressed. I'm a good person. I'm sincere. I'm a lazy slob. Definition after definition. We may ask, how can we survive without our ego? Don't worry, it doesn't disappear. We can learn to venture beyond it, though. The ego is there as our servant. Our room is there. We can always go in and use it like an office when we need to be efficient, but the door can be left open so that we can always walk out. What does this mean? Well, he talked about neuroses. Neuroses are those thoughts that you're always going to have. They're negative thoughts. If you went through something bad, if somebody said something negative to you, sorry to tell you, those thoughts are never going to go away. The problem is, the positive is, you can learn to distance yourself from those thoughts. So they'll always be there. The ego will always be there, but you can make it your slave rather than the other way around. As I talked about in an earlier slide, the ego, or the mind in general, is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master. And all of this Eastern stuff is so that you can, once again, gain control of your mind. 3 months ago, another student journal, I was probably in the darkest spot of my life and thinking I would never get out of it. From the talk of the egoic mind in class, I've learned how much worse it was due to my mind blocking me. The wall. Remember the Charlie Brown idea of the way we think we're imprisoning ourselves with our own thoughts? I let the wall control me, and just by one class conversation on this topic, I can already tell I will be able to stop letting my mind control me as much. I can now catch myself and take a step back instead of letting it control me. Taking a step back and catching myself, that's the witness, that's the observer. I know the negative thoughts will always be there and be a wall, but I must climb over the wall. And truly, this kid, I had him in class for about half the year, and then all of a sudden, one day during class, it like clicked. And they told me it clicked. And that's what's going to happen, hopefully, with a lot of you in terms of you need to examine what role does your own happiness have to do with how you're thinking. Due to the mind's negative conditioning, we soon get confused. Our self-worth is tied to everyone else's opinion. What we think they are thinking about us. If you know the idea of Geppetto and Pinocchio, Pinocchio is a puppet being controlled by others. And unfortunately, we allow others' opinions to control us. But the fact is, usually we don't even know their opinions. We're just thinking we know what they think. And it's usually something negative. The seesaw. Now, the whole thinking that somehow we have to allow others to determine our self-worth through pats on the head, that's the egoic mindset. Advaita Vedanta thinks it's definitely a negative. It's how the mind has misunderstood the world and our true nature. It's Maya. Once again, we brought it up yesterday. Maya is the illusion. It's the misperception of how we're viewing the world. Maya is often talked about as clouds which block out the sun. The sun's still there, but you really can't see it. Swami Vivekananda says we cover up our eyes and we complain it's dark. The clouds, that's our egotism, that's our selfishness, our hatred, our greed, our lust, our anger, our ambition. All of our feelings and emotions, if we could kind of get those out of the way, we could actually see the sun. Now, if you know Star Wars, you're beginning to see the dark side in all of these emotions. Oh, and you got the Cookie Monster on there. He's represented the dark side with the cookie. But Darth Vader, who had ambition and had anger and had selfishness. The concept we'll get into in a little bit. I had an epiphany, that means a breakthrough, in philosophy today. Why should I care about what other people think of me? I am me, and that is all that matters. I am trying my best, and if someone doesn't think that is good enough, then, oh well, they don't need to associate with me. I am myself, and I will not change myself because someone cannot accept who I am. The egoic mind is like a poison in the water for your brain. It will cloud the water that is your brain. I see the egoic mind like a cloud or a film that is over the brain and making it so that we cannot think properly. I was impressed they got the idea of the cloud, which was talked about before they wrote their journal. Maya literally means that which is not. It's a veil that covers our eyes. Our eyes meaning our perception. We can't see what's real. We can't see the positives. We can't see how we're similar because we're so busy with Maya, which is the illusion. We are fooled by this fake world that's in our head. I've argued with kids about if thoughts and emotions are real. Well, you know what? They're real to you because of Maya. You have misunderstood existence. Outside of your mind, outside of your senses, there is a real world that you can discover, a 24/7 movie that never ends. But yet, we get stuck in this fake world of comparison and thoughts and opinions. They call it Maya. Swami Vivekananda, stand up and be bold. Take the blame on your own shoulders. Do not go about throwing mud at others. For all the faults you suffer from, you are the sole and only cause. There's an interesting story. A guy was walking down the street carrying a grocery. He just gone grocery shopping, and he's rushing back home because he was late. And he ran into another man, and he fell on the ground, and his eggs went flying, and his juice went flying, and everything went flying, all the food. And the guy was pissed off, and he's like, "What are you doing? Why don't you look where you're going? What are you, blind?" Full of anger, full of juice all over his pants. And he looked up, and the other man was blind. And then the anger just went away. There's no point throwing mud at others. Sometimes our own way of thinking, our own actions, is why we have suffering. And maybe when we take control of that, here's the thing. You will suffer bad, terrible, awful things. Everybody you know will die if you don't die first. That is a tragic truth of life. You could take all of these setbacks as reasons to get into fetal position, or you can realize that throwing mud, blaming others, blaming situations is only an excuse. And as he said, stand up and be bold. Another journal. I am mostly a negative person, but have found myself a little more positive and a little more content lately. I don't know if this stuff is helping or the good things in my life are just making me happy. I am naturally mad and negative person, so things that piss me off, they piss me off. And sometimes I can't help it. Lately, though, I've found myself saying more of whatever and accepting it rather than letting it eat me alive. And that's fine. I mean, this person's still going to get mad, but if you can gradually begin to not let it eat you alive, as Buddha said with anger is like carrying around a hot coal to throw at another. Well, who is the hot coal burning? Buddha says you will not be punished by your anger. You'll be punished for your anger. Right, I got that backwards. You will not be punished for your anger. You'll be punished by your anger, meaning the anger that you hold is only eating yourself alive. If you can kind of let things go like this child has or this student has, I think you'll be better off. March on. Do not look back upon little mistakes and things. In this battlefield of ours, the dust of mistakes must be raised. Those who are so thin-skinned that they cannot bear the dust, let them get out of the ranks. We're going to make mistakes, but the thing is, people are so afraid of making mistakes because of being judged, they don't try. They don't put themselves out there. He talks about it as march on. When you're going through hell, as Churchill said, you need to keep going. You need to take things that are obstacles in your way and find a way to overcome them. I've given this quote before, but I like it so much, especially the last sentence. The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their ways out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion and gentleness and a deep loving concern. And here's the sentence I love. Beautiful people do not just happen. If you look at the people who are usually most apathetic or most wanting to take away the pain of another, oftentimes they are people who felt pain themselves. They understand, and they don't want anybody else to suffer that same fate. That's one way to sort of march on and try to become better as a result of the sandpaper of life. Unfortunately, in the Western world, it's more of people not being able to deal with the setbacks, and now they're self-medicating and basically giving up with full of excuses and a victim mentality. Throw away all your weakness. Tell your body it's strong. Tell your mind that it's strong, and have an unbounded faith and hope in yourself. Eastern philosophy, if you might remember earlier in the year, we did the power of the mind, and we did a placebo versus a nocebo. Placebo meaning if you believe something to happen, it might. There are aspects in Eastern philosophy, it doesn't work in our sort of Western cause and effect mind, where they say truly just wanting and desiring and believing you will achieve something, if you never give up, you will achieve it. The problem is we doubt this to be true. Yeah, that's not the way it works. And as a result, that doubt might be the very thing that limits us, because that doubt comes from the mind. So, as we move on to Star Wars, this is a quote from Yoda. Yoda's a little puppet guy on the back of Luke Skywalker. Anger, fear, and aggression, the dark side of the Force are they. Easily they flow, quick to join you in a fight. If once you start down the dark path, forever it will dominate your destiny, consume you at will. This is straight Eastern philosophy. Anger, fear, and aggression, you get those through an incorrect way of thinking. I'm going to be angry for a second when what happens, and then I'm going to let it go. But most people, as he says, they're eager to join you in a fight. You need to defend yourself. That's fine. But his point is, of the dark path, once you get that way of thinking going, it's going to dominate your destiny. Star Wars is, in fact, an Advaita Vedanta tale. So, as an Advaita Vedanta story, Anakin, I apologize if I'm ruining the movie for you, but if you haven't watched them yet, kind of late. I'm talking about the first three films. Anakin, he wants to become Darth Vader, right? Does he? He falls for the illusion of Maya and the egoic mind, and he wants power. And when we want power, we've got ambition, we have greed, and most of us, I'm not saying just, most of us, me as well, we're unaware of this force that somehow connects us. So in the film, I took a 15-minute version of it. C-3PO, he's the gold little robot. He represents the always complaining egoic mind. Now R2-D2, he's the little beeping robot who never says anything. We don't know what he says. People perceive him as being the happy robot. R2-D2 is the uncarved block. He just is. While C-3PO is full of the egoic mind. We'll now watch the film, and when we come back, we will wrap it up. So hopefully you watched the film. If you did not get it, the idea, what the dark side is, what is represented by Darth Vader, fear, anger, greed, ambition, ego, that's what is, in opinion of Advaita Vedanta, is the bad way of looking at life. Unfortunately, ask yourself, is that how we are motivated in the Western world? While the force is non-duality. For those who realize it, we're all interconnected and there's more peace there. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be picking up planes and ships and the rest of the sort of movie stuff, but the idea is the dark path that they talk about, most of us are on it unless we try to maybe assess and examine. Maybe we're looking for the wrong things in the wrong places. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. I brought this quote up before. It's the spiritual versus the material. So, for tonight, write a journal, and we will talk tomorrow.